Let's do this podcast thing. I'm Joe Giglio, joined today by Alex Nunnally. Alex, how are you?
Good. Great to be back.
Well, I needed you because Joe Ovius is in Salt Lake City on a junior hockey trip. Shout out to the Junior Canes and Shane Willis for signing off on our amazing rowback. You can get your own rowback, not Junior Canes, though. You can get your own rowback. Use our promo code OG20. OG20 to get an amazing hoodie or golf shirt, whatever you need from Rowback. Again, use our promo code OG20, get 20% off. It's a Thursday. Big thanks to our friends at Butcher's Market, Steak of the Month Club. Hey, Valentine's Day is coming up. Hey, girl, nothing says I love you like the Steak of the Month Club. Okay. These are all great things. Maybe you got a dad, right? Take care of John. Sign up for that Steak of the Month Club at the Butcher's Market. They have a location in Cary, the home base of one young Alex Nunnally. And of course, we can't be here without our friends at Empire Properties and Empire Eats. All right, Alex, ACC champion, Cary Academy legend, maybe just a Cary in general legend.
I don't know about all that.
Okay. I reached out to you last night. I said, hey, man, we're going to talk about football.
Yep.
College football. We got a playoff coming up. We have an ACC team in it. That's awesome, right? NFL, you're a big Panther guy. You follow the NFL. These are all things. You're like, hey, how about the Hurricanes? I'm like, yeah, you love the Canes. We'll talk about the Canes. But, man, we're going to talk about hoops, right?
I think we have to.
And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, we're talking about state. Well, why are they better? What's going on? Last time we talked was after the Kansas game. We did a After Dark together.
Yep.
Hey, so far so good on the technology here today. So far so good.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And then last night, in between me texting you and me waking up this morning, we have an upset of sorts in the ACC. North Carolina goes out to Palo Alto, and in spite of having tremendous support at the Maples Pavilion, as I learned my 1 year covering the Tar Heels, they have fans everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
They went out Stanford. They lost 95-90 regulation. Now, we're going to play some calls from UNC fans, and I get it. We went into this year thinking it was going to be a referendum about Ebert Davis. It was delayed because they beat Kansas and they beat Kentucky. Okay. And I think those wins will still serve them well, regardless of what. Now, Kansas beat Iowa State this week.
Yeah.
That's not going to hurt them. Kentucky had a nice comeback win last night, too, by the way. But I think those things will serve them well, even while they hit this rough patch of their season. But the number one thing, best I can tell, that Carolina fans are mad about is, yes, Stanford beat Louisville out at Maples Pavilion, but they also lost to Notre Dame there in a game where they only scored 40 points. So how do you score 40 points against Notre Dame and 95 against Carolina? And I think that's really where the ire has been raised for Carolina fans. What is going on defensively with the Tar Heels?
Well, for one, they cannot guard the three-point line, which, as we talked about earlier, was a pretty common complaint about one Will Wade and his defense.
That's right.
Over at NC State.
That's right.
So it seemed pretty common in terms of the issues they're having. I think a lot of it, they had poor communication. They had a lot of breakdowns, especially switching screens, not getting out to guys. There were a couple of times they try to go under a screen. Both guys go with the roll guy. He just takes one dribble, pounds, goes up, wide open shot. Those are things that just can't happen. And if I'm a Carolina fan or just a basketball fan in general, it is very easy to talk about defensive breakdowns and point them back at the coach, because those are things that go back because either your system's broken or your players aren't bought in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both of those are pretty bad in terms of how it looks for your coach and your staff in general.
So for me, they have the SMU loss, which you can kind of explain. Boobie Miller has been really good this year.
Yeah.
SMU is a talented team. They have NIL and revenue share just like everybody else. Andy Enfield's a very good coach. You kind of chalked that one up. The other one got hot. And I compared that to last year when they lost to Alabama at home. Mm. And I said, sometimes you have a game like that, you get reset afterwards. And they did for a half against Wake Forest. Then the second half of the Wake Forest game, a lot of the same problems defensively cropped up. And now to have this game where Stanford, yes, made 16 of 28 three-pointers in this game. Carolina gives up 50 points in the second half of this game. I mean, they got 26 points from Caleb Wilson, 26 points from Henry Vesser, but the rest of the lineup is kind of in flux. That's really where this is about. Like, they got to solve their guard and their perimeter situation and the rotation as well.
Yeah. Well, the rotation is he's still actively trying to figure out what his rotation looks like, and we're pushing the middle of January. That's not exactly a recipe for success. Additionally, well, one thing I said about Carolina going into this season was they did not get a true difference maker at guard. They have very good guards, but you don't have that guy where, like, that's the guy. Your guy's Caleb Wilson, which great player, not taking anything away from him. But what guards win in March? And I think that's something that when you don't have that guy who at least can distribute and get guys into the right spots, and then you have a game where, yes, Caleb Wilson was very effective, but I still think down the stretch he made a lot of bad plays. He got called for a travel at the end of a game, and he traveled a couple of sessions before that, and it didn't get called. So again, he's trying to force things. He's trying to be that guy, and it seems like when other teams know that, they don't necessarily have, okay, what else can we do in these situations? And they still scored 90 points, and we're complaining about, oh, we need more guys to step up.
So last year, they were a smaller backcourt, Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis. I call them munchkins. When you got munchkins, other teams in college basketball in particular is built on guards, you're going to struggle.
Yep.
So I thought potentially this year they could get out of that munchkin problem area. Tremble's not a munchkin. Tough defender, good player. Obviously, his absence, when you're trying to learn about your team, it doesn't help to be missing Seth Trimble for 5 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give Hubert a little bit of grace in that sense, in that he didn't have a super important piece to what ultimately is going to help him. But I'm struggling now because Kyan Evans is a munchkin, and then Bogovac is a Euro for whatever. I don't think it's being painting with too broad of a brush. Euros don't love to defend.
No.
That's not really their DNA. Great passers, great shooters, move the ball, understand the concept of team defense, obviously, but not known for their defensive prowess. So you got a munchkin, you got a Euro, you got Seth Trimble, who's good. And then I think Derek Dixon's the answer, but if he's only on the floor for 11 minutes, I don't know how he can be the answer.
Well, you can't be. I think that is the answer right now, is that if you're playing under half the game, you cannot have that level of impact to be the difference maker over a course of a full season. Maybe for a game or two, you can come in and have 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and be kind of that X factor for a game. But you can't expect that to be consistent throughout without letting you get in a rhythm. I think one of the problems too is that some of the shot selection from their guards is very poor at times. I remember there was one time they were up 2 and got a stop. This is late in the second half.
Yeah.
And, they kick ahead. And I want to say I think it was Kyan Evans took a 3 in transition. That was just not a good shot. It's a rush 3 contested. Stanford comes down, ties the game back up. And once that play happened, you can kind of just feel everyone go, yeah, we had a chance to put up multiple 2-possession game going into the under 4 timeout, which it still ended up being. But again, you're just limiting yourself so badly when you take shots like that, when okay, what's working right now for us? Caleb Wilson and Henry Vesar are working for us right now. They need to have guards that can get those guys the ball consistently. It's not like they didn't, but it comes down to what are you doing in the clutch moments, clutch time at end of games. And I didn't really see that from UNC last night.
All right, let's go to the OG Sports phone. I believe it's Paul who is calling that phone. He has a point here that maybe we should have thought of. Let's see if I have the right call.
I gotta.
Oh, that's the angry guy.
Hey guys, it's Paul. I'm honestly not surprised about Carolina losing to Stanford last night, and starting league play 2-2, because if Hubert Davis has no one to blame but himself or who does his scheduling, because Carolina, up until the SMU game, had only played 1 true road game against Kentucky, and as we're finding out, Kentucky is a fucking mess. So, and honestly, if Kentucky had hit 2 shots in 10 minutes, they would have won that game. So, Carolina simply did not play any true road games other than Kentucky, and I always believed that Carolina should be playing 2 or 3 true road games before conference play. so they can get used to playing on the road. Like, I believe Hubert Davis did the Mike Krzyzewski model where you never play on the road unless you absolutely have to. And I fully believe that Mike Krzyzewski didn't win the ACC regular season for like 15 straight years up until his last season because they never played true road games before non-conference play, and then they would always inevitably lose like 3 road games early on, and it would end up costing them the ACC regular season. So, you know, and like the 2 road games the Carolinas had to play are SMU and Stanford, and they still have to play at Cal. So like, you have to do better scheduling. You have to have more true road games off the top. Play a tiny school at their place. I don't want to be that guy, but Roy Williams did that, and his teams usually fared pretty well in ACC play when it came to road play. So, I mean, yeah.
All right, Alex, what do you think? Because this was a familiar knock on Duke.
Yeah.
Now, Duke would retort, we wanted to be prepared for the NCAA tournament, which is played at neutral sites. So we played big neutral site games.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't feel the need to go and play in somebody's gym. So I can see Carolina, and I know Clint Waltney, he handles the schedule for Carolina. They played down in Florida, St. Bonnie's and Michigan State neutral site games. They played the neutral site game with Ohio State in Atlanta. And the Kansas game this year was at home because they decided to play a home and home. Last year they went to Lawrence. This year it just happened to be the game in Kansas. So I don't know that I want to knock the schedule, but I understand what Paul's saying. As a former player in the league, though, was it tough to show up in a gym for the first time as being a league game, or do you think there was an advantage there or a disadvantage?
I think winning on the road is tough, regardless.
Period.
You could play all of your non-conference road games on the road, and you still show up your first ACC game is either going to be in the deadest gym if you're up in Boston College,
Right,
which is the worst environment to play a basketball game in, or you got to go to Cameron Indoor and play in front of the loudest environment. So either way, it's tough to get yourself up for it, or you get too amped up and then you play outside of yourself. With that being said, I see what he's saying in that you want to prepare your team for every sort of possible environment you can get in. But they did go play at Kentucky this year. That is a tough environment, regardless of how good or bad Kentucky is. You're trying to prepare yourself more for the environment in that process of how do we get ready for a road game? How do we deal with adversity within a game? Kentucky is still a very talented team, regardless of how well coached or how good of a team it is. That's still a tough place to go win a game. And they did do that. So I think I see what he's saying, but I would push back in that the schedule did challenge them and get them ready for conference play. And even if they had played 4 or 5 road games, they would still be struggling in some of these games just because teams struggle on the road in conference play, especially in the ACC.
Yeah, to me, I look at Carolina and I say, this gets back to our conversation we had after the Kansas game about letting a team get hot, letting a team see a couple go in. And Carolina and State are different. I covered State for a long time, and I was there at Miami when nobody was there. I was there at Boston College when nobody was there. The difference between State and Carolina and Duke, when Carolina and Duke show up at your gym's full.
Yep.
Doesn't matter where it is, it's full. And I saw the pictures pregame. A lot of the outlets that cover Carolina went out to Stanford for this game. And I went to Stanford in 12, Mark's second year they played at Stanford. It's the hottest gym I've ever been in, believe it or not, even hotter than Cameron. And I remember it was an empty gym. They weren't very good. It wasn't Johnny Dawkins, it was Jared Haas. And they had good players. They had a couple guys who ended up in the NBA. They had a perfectly acceptable basketball team. No one there.
Yeah.
I see the pictures yesterday. There's a lot of Carolina, because Maples Pavilion is a lot like Cameron. Mm. Very similar setup. You've been out there. Did you try? No, last year it was right. Yeah. So it's very much like Cameron without fans. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can imagine playing in Cameron with no fans. It's completely different. You probably feel pretty good. Kind of like playing at Boston College a little, or Virginia Tech even a little bit too. Or Reynolds. To me, I think maybe Stanford benefited from the Carolina fans being there and playing in a full gym. I think Stanford benefited from hitting some early shots, feeling good about themselves. Kyle Smith's a really good coach.
Oh, he's a great coach.
Really, really good coach. They run some good stuff. I think they put him in a blender a little bit, but I think it was also, like we talked about from that Kansas game, This is Stanford feeling themselves, getting a little bit of juice flowing, and then all of a sudden, when the shots start to matter, they feel good. They got confidence. But number one issue for Carolina, they have to solve whatever's going on in their backcourt in that rotation. I have advocated for them to just put Dixon in and see what he's going to do. Yep. And I know it's hard. We've talked about this with Matt Abel, Paul McNeil last year. It's hard with freshmen. Most freshmen don't know how to play defense, and that's why they don't play.
Yep.
Because they're used to being the top shit on their team and scoring 40 points in high school, and they don't want to listen to you.
I know this is a Carolina conversation, but we can talk about NC State, Florida State. I presume we're probably going to transition into that a little bit, but kind of use that way. In that game, Matt Abel is on fire and takes 2 dumb fouls in 2 minutes, puts him on the bench. In a different game, that is huge because he's 4 of 6 from 3, has 12 points in the first half. He's almost at his career high in the first half, and he can't play in the last 5 minutes of this half. And actually, we can barely play in the second half because he already has 3 and got 4. So it's little things like that with freshmen. You're like, God, this guy's so good. Oh, can't play him now because he decided to go reach in when he was just walled up perfectly and get his 3rd. That's why you trust the veteran guys like a Kyan Evans, like a Seth Trimble. But again, you're getting to a point in the season now where you start wondering how long can we keep pushing or not getting the results with these guys. When you do know, okay, we know what this guy is. Let's go find out what this younger guy is that we can hopefully retain for 2 or 3 more years.
Now, before we get to State, Duke did beat Cal last night, so they'll have a chance to only be the second team. It's only the second year. But Wake Forest was the only team last year who went out west and swept Stanford and Cal. They weren't that good last year.
No.
Okay? They are both better this year, but you would think Carolina and Duke, top 10, 20 teams, would be able to go out there and just beat them and move it along. There is something to that travel, though, now. Come on.
You see the Big Ten complain about it all the time. When Oregon has to go play at Rutgers, which, side note, is still the worst call I have seen at the end of a game my entire life.
Yes.
That was phantom. Anyways, but you see it is a real thing. That jet lag is real. And yeah, especially on the first game going out there, you're not fully adapted to it yet. It's tough getting yourself up for a game. And I still want to emphasize, we're complaining about Carolina. We're complaining about the guards. We're complaining about the defense. Stanford played the best game they have all season from a statistical standpoint. That was a tie game within 1 possession the entire end of the game up until Carolina had to start playing the foul game. And they were right there. I mean, this is a good Carolina team that I think will be able to figure out some of the things moving forward if their rotation is able to get solved by Hubert Davis.
Yeah, Duke continues to be just a juggernaut in the second half. 71-56, they beat Cal. Just another paint by numbers, 21-9 from Cam Boozer. Notable here, Nick Hemenia scored 10 points for Duke. I got to believe that's his season high for the freshman. He's brought in to be a shooter. He had 10 against Michigan State, 12 against Niagara. But, I mean, this has been – they need a little bit more of that three-point ancillary support. So, to get Hemenia going is obviously a good thing. Now, let's talk about the Wolfpack because I had reached out to you because I'm like, State, they're actually playing well since the last time we saw you. And there's a tendency for, if you're a Duke or Carolina fan or someone who doesn't like NC State, to be like, yeah, cool, it's Boston College and Florida State. My opinion, after the way that they played against Virginia, I don't care who they were playing against.
Yeah.
They needed to get Darian Williams and Matt Abel going, and voila. I don't know if it was the site of Boston College. I don't know if as Noah Fleischman from the Wolfpacker has advanced. It's the headband now that Darian Williams is wearing.
Yeah,
I don't know, but they scored 100 points in an ACC road game for the first time since 1991, when Korch and Googs and Monroe were running around and lighting up scoreboards. So there's that. I thought the Boston College game, to me, their personnel looked better than people might be giving them credit for. It's an 8-point game, but State was never really in danger of losing that game. But State's starting to figure it out. The pieces are starting to fall together. What stands out to you about what State's been able to do in these last 2 games? And also, I kind of hate that they didn't get to play a midweek game this week.
I know. This is the worst time break I think you could have had for this team. You want to keep playing while you have the momentum. You'll take the break and take the advantage and take the rest. But you come into a game, you want to keep playing while you're feeling good and while the shots are going in. That's the biggest difference. Sidney Lowe, our guy.
Got to make shots.
Your best players had to be your best players. You just when Darren Williams steps up and gets the support from a Matt Abel, from a Quadir Copeland, who, side note, needs to stop turning the ball over because everything he does is perfect, except every game it feels like he has the same number of turnovers to assist every time. But regardless, if you fix that, then there's not really much I want to complain about with this Wolfpack roster. Although they still get, especially against Boston College, you still have your Wolfpack hero of the week every so often kind of get hot and keep a team in a game that doesn't really have business being in that game other than for that guy's performance. But you can't really ask for much more than winning 2 games on the road in ACC play to set yourself up nicely coming into a stretch of your schedule after Georgia Tech starts getting a little bit tougher.
Yeah. And defensively, again, your Florida State, that game, they blasted them. So I'm not sure there's even a value in talking about, what happened defensively in that game because they really controlled it from the jump. I mean, it was 30-9, like blink. And they had that kind of performance.
One of the things I really liked from Will Wade in that game was that the guys were still bought in defensively when they were up by 30 to 40. Yeah. That's something that tells me, okay, these guys trust Will Wade and trust the system that he's now changed them to run. And I think that that's one of the biggest things to show that, okay, this team's bought in. Maybe it doesn't always show itself when you have a bad game like a Virginia game, but if you have effort like that, when you're going to win a game, and the other team still, they want to get theirs if they're going to go portaling or whatever it is, they don't want to get blown out like that. But you had guys diving on loose balls, great boxing out. You dominated the glass in that game against the Florida State team that has some size and have the best offensive rebounder in the league going into that game. And you dominated on the glass, which has been an issue for the team all year. And I think that's something that you can build on moving forward, even in a blowout type of game like that.
Got to go back to the first 3 games of the 23-24 season for the last time NC State won 3 ACC games in a row, regular season games in a row, obviously.
Yep.
Yeah, I started that year 3-0 with wins over Boston College, Notre Dame, and Virginia.
Yep.
Obviously, the home game against Virginia was one of those ones that you'd like. That team started 5-1, which I think a lot of people misremember. Terrible Louisville team. And then Wake Forest. So I just think the league is, I know we're going to get some calls about Carolina and in Hey Joe, but I think it's harder for people to square that the league is better and more competitive and deeper this year. I mean, I know Florida State just look like trash, but
Georgia Tech, Boston College, and Florida State. And even
right, but Georgia Tech and Florida State both
they can get you
played great against Duke.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the variant, right? Because Stanford had the 40 points against Notre Dame, 95 against Carolina. It almost depends on that, kind of goes back to the old college rules. Hey, you don't know. That guy might have gotten dumped. That guy might have gotten a bad grade in the class. That guy, might have had bad shellfish. You don't know.
Yeah, and the top of the league is better. But what's more important, and I think you guys have touched on this plenty, is that the bottom of the league is significantly better than where it's been the last couple of years, which you don't see quad 4 games popping up. You barely see quad 3 games popping up. Everything's quad 1 and quad 2, which really helps the all-important net and the NCAA tournament committee going, okay, these teams have been tested. They can get in the tournament.
It's so weird that we've talked so much about ACC basketball this year. Normally, like this week, we'd get a State Carolina game.
Yep.
So let me just gin up a little bit of anger here for the schedule makers that we only get one this year. It's so late on the calendar. It's like we're even going to get a Duke Carolina game before we get the one State Carolina game, and then of course only the one game between State and Duke, which we've all kind of gotten used to on that front. But it's so hard to kind of gauge, one thing about Paul's call about this is what Duke used to do. Nothing happens in the triangle in a vacuum.
No,
and I think Will Wade's kind of struggled a little bit with that idea and that kind of concept of who you're being compared to and some fan expectations for Darian Williams and kind of the player that he is and what fans want to see out of your best player and your highest paid player. It's hard when we don't get those comparison points, right? It's just even think about it. Last night, telling my wife, Carolina plays at 9, Duke plays at 11. And she's like, why? why so late? And I was like, well, it's an 8:00 game at Cal. I'm like, it's only 8:00 for them. She's like, oh, well, okay.
Well, that's the biggest issue with expanded conferences. You don't get as many comparison points.
Yes.
You look at football. I mean, that's the whole reason we had the discussion of Miami, Notre Dame, and Duke and Virginia to begin with. It's so hard to get so many of those common opponent comparison points. How many teams have really played, oh, we played this team and beat them, but you guys only beat them by 10. We beat them by 25. There aren't that many of those yet. Whereas by this point, 5 or 6 games in, you would be starting to see a lot more of that under what the old conference looked like, which I think is one of the biggest reasons why it just doesn't feel the same all the time. It's like, well, we got to go to Cal, but that's somehow a conference game.
I know.
Whereas the last time you went out there in 2012, you would
conference.
To say, if you had told, imagine if someone had said to you, oh, by the way, this is going to be a conference game in 12 years.
No.
Exactly.
No, I got nothing.
Housekeeping.
All right, Alex, you're here today. Joe and I recorded the mailbag earlier today, so we'll have that for you guys tomorrow up on the YouTubes. And of course, I'm not even going to pretend to explain to you about your Discord account or whatever Joe has done now. I got nothing for you other than to know that it will be available to you tomorrow. I spared you on Monday because I figured you had work or coaching or something. Yeah. But if you'd like to join us at the arena, are you going to the hockey game on Monday?
I don't think so.
Okay, 1:30 Monday. Hayes Permar and I will be doing a very special OG live.
What are
from
we
the
celebrating
arena.
on?
Well, Monday is Martin Luther King holiday,
okay.
So the Canes are playing at 1:30.
Okay.
So I think I'll be live at like 11. Hayes and I will be live.
I'll come join you after the loss because that's a scheduled loss for sure.
Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. We'll get into some Hayes,
we'll talk
some Canes conversations here, but so that's our schedule today. Obviously, we're not quite live as you're watching us here at 2:00 on the YouTubes. But we will have the mailbag tomorrow, Joe and I, and then Monday, Hayes Perma and I will be from the Lenovo Center, I believe, in the morning. So I'll make up for the lack of being live today on Monday. How's that sound? So coming up on today's show, we also have Mike Archer. Mike, former defense coordinator at NC State, longtime assistant coach, was a head coach at LSU in the 80s, but got his start at Miami, his alma mater. So he's going to come in and talk a little bit of football with us. And then I had a conversation with Oronde Ash. Oronde played soccer at NC State when I was there. He's my age. Got a chance to catch up with him, talk a little bit about NC State and what they were able to do this year, making it to the national championship game, but just a little bit about his soccer journey and our shared mentor there in Coach Tarantini. So looking forward to that. And we'll have some phone calls from you guys here coming up as well. Big thanks to our friend Matt Davis. Matt Davis, I know you got insurance needs, right? We all have insurance needs, even youths like Alex. Well, go to insuregarner.com or you can give Matt a call, 919-779-8277. Even better, you got financial planning. I am terrible at financial planning. Matt can help you with all of these things. Even if you're, again, a youth like Alex, you need help plotting your course for the rest of your adulthood. So give Matt a call, 919-779-8277. Our friends over at Whitaker and Hamer, Josh Whitaker, Joe Hamer, they've got you covered. All their different locations, Clayton and Garner. They do such great work. And you name it, family law, whether you're closing on a business, whether you're closing on a home, any of those things, traffic issues, check them out. They have the world's greatest URL, wh.lawyer. And speaking of the best, John Nunnally is a really, 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 really big NC State fan, but there's one bigger, and that's Hayes Lancaster, the OG, Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. Hayes does not believe in contracts, but he does believe in saving you money. So check him out at bugsbite.com. And finally, our friends at Hometown Realty. It's myhtr.com. You can buy, you can sell with confidence. They are celebrating 25 years in the real estate business, and they want to honor hometown heroes. Well, you're asking, Joe, what's a hometown hero? Really? Could be anybody who's made a difference in your town. Garner, Clayton, all the other locations that they have. So here's what you do. I want you to reach out to our friends at Hometown Realty, myhtr.com. They are going to have monthly winners for their hometown hero to celebrate their 25th anniversary, and they're going to have a grand prize winner. So check them out again. It's myhtr.com. Joining us now in the studio, the Heister Automotive Group microphone, Mike Archer, the one and only, my new favorite golf partner for Captain's Choice.
Well, I carried this yesterday. Just you can call me whatever you want. Main guy.
Well, we could probably have an off-air conversation about that. You kept claiming I was getting heavy yesterday, but that really wasn't the truth. Let's just say who started the day on fire, right?
I did.
Okay. Well,
Who made the putt on the first hole for the
dad.
birdie? No, your dad did. Who made the longest putt? I did. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see. Hey, but more importantly, a graduate of Miami, more importantly, on Howard Schnellenberger's staff for when the U really began back in '83 when they won their first championship with an unbelievable upset of Nebraska. I am not Coach. Welcome. And say hello to Alex here, ACC champion, our friend Alex Nunnally, sitting in for Joe Ovius today, who is out in Salt Lake City. He obviously sends his best regards to you.
Skiing? Is he skiing out there?
He's got a lot of youth hockey going on.
Okay.
So
Yeah, sure.
Exactly the perfect response there, the eye roll. I am not putting Indiana in the same class as '83 Nebraska. Okay, I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're an 8.5-point underdog on Monday night. I actually like where Miami is in this position at home. People kind of doubting them. I actually do think they have better talent up front and in the skill spots, save for quarterback. I think this is a winnable game for Miami on Monday night. What do you see?
No, I agree. I mean, there's so many different scenarios that are identical to the '83. The game is technically a home game for Miami, even though it's not going to be quite as overwhelming. I think Indiana fans will be there, but Miami fans have a way of getting tickets, even as expensive as they are. They'll be there. We were, I think, 18-point underdogs to Nebraska in '83.
An all-time war machine with Turner Gill, Mike Rozier, Irving Fryer. Alex, who's a pup, who's a youth, is looking at me like I have no idea. Tom Osborne's best team at Nebraska was the '83 team. They absolutely murderballed everybody that year.
I do know Tom Osborne, so I can give you that one.
And that year, I remember as we were getting ready to play them, and we knew how good Nebraska was because the University of Miami was where the Big 8 champion. The Big 8 always played in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah,
and the Big 8 champion always worked out at the University of Miami, and we were at the time not real good, so they would work out there. Oklahoma would work out. So we saw their personnel over the years, and it was as good as there was in the country. And so we knew what we were facing going in, but we had our players, we were comfortable. Yeah, we had to go to a hotel just like Miami has to go to a hotel now, but we could practice at the university. And we our players felt comfortable. And all they heard for 10 days was, you got no chance. You're 18-point underdogs. They're going to just run right over you. And, we kind of parlayed that and played off of it every day. We said we had something that coach would talk about that was how bad we were. So, everything is kind of the same way now. And I agree with you in a lot of your respects. I think Miami, as I told you yesterday, I think Miami is the most talented team physically, without question. But the best coach team is Indiana, and I've watched them all throughout the year. And I know Curt Cignetti. Curt coached here at NC State. He's a Pittsburgh guy. Their 22 guys are as well coached as anybody I've seen in a long time.
They were surgical in the game in Atlanta against Oregon.
That
was a clinic.
Yeah. And, that's after having already beaten them once in Eugene. And you're figuring, okay, maybe Oregon didn't take them quite as seriously as they should have back in October. And they jumped on them on the first snap. I mean, the first play, it's a pick six, and it was over after that. And then you throw in Mendoza, who is, the Heisman Trophy winner, and he's He's like a surgeon. I mean, he knows what to do. He takes what you give him. He doesn't try to do too much. He doesn't turn the ball over, and they can run the ball well enough that if you're just loading up on the passing game, they will hit you for some runs. So I think it's a great matchup. I think it's going to be down to the last, 2 or 3 minutes. And I really do think this, and I talked about it yesterday. It comes down to the quarterback, who plays the best and who doesn't screw it up. And, and I've been very honest with my fellow Miami alums all during the year this year that if they run the football with Fletcher, when they're running the ball and they're using the time, Mendoza is standing over on the sidelines, and he can't beat them. And I used the analogy yesterday to you, and you laughed about this. I used to tell our fans here at NC State, when Russell was on the field and we were running the ball, I couldn't screw up calling dumb defenses and let the other team score. So that's what I think it comes down to. Miami's ability to run the ball, control the line of scrimmage, and then, making sure the quarterback doesn't make bad decisions and gives Indiana the short field. Now, vice versa, if Mendoza does that, which he has shown, he does not turn the ball over very much. He's very, very disciplined with the ball. The play of the quarterbacks, number one, will be key. Number two, the ability to run the football, keep the other guy on the sideline. And number three, do not turn the ball over and do stupid things in special teams.
Are you impressed with what Mario Cristobal's been able to do? You were down there. I know you've been you are in regular contact
Correct.
with your college football friends. You are the Forrest Gump of college football. But you were down there for the celebration of the 83 team. It was 23. I remember it was early days for Mario. Are you impressed with where he has the program now, compared to where they just were 2 years ago?
Well, I think, yes. Number one, he's brought the U back to where we want it. It's not like it was when Dennis Erickson was there, where we had all the shenanigans and all the BS with guys showing up in fatigues and all the crap that went on, which was embarrassing to the university. Yes, his whole mantra is physicality. Yeah. Bring in people that want to be here, and we're going to control the line of scrimmage. And I think he's done a great job of that. I think he's made it important to people in the South Florida region, because the Dolphins aren't very good right now. And so they've kind of hung their hats on the University of Miami. Now, having been a head coach, I've watched him. I think he's improved as a game manager. The one negative that I have kind of, let me put it nicely.
You can say it better than me, so I'm going to let you.
My biggest complaint with Mario is game management.
Yeah.
He did it 3 years ago in Georgia Tech, where you just take a knee, gains over, he hands it to the fullback, and they fumble, and Georgia Tech beats him. He did it at Oregon. He tried to do it last week in the game against Ole Miss. The end of the first half, where if as I told you yesterday, it's universal. You get the ball with 1:11 to go. And he and Nick had this little fun thing, but Nick was right. And having been in that seat, you got to manage the game, and he gave Ole Miss 3 points, and then the flea flicker in the second half, when you're running the ball with Fletcher, you're pounding on him, and you run a trick play. No, that's not being a good game manager. And so Nick kind of called him out on it, and they talked about the golden book that Nick has, because he worked for Nick. And Nick is one of the best coaches of all time in college football, whether you like him or not. He is. He's proven it. So. That's my one fear, is that if he just manages the game and doesn't try to coach the offensive line all the time back on the bench and miss what's going on, then they'll have an opportunity to win.
Alex is a big Panthers fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of sort of puts you in the same territory, because Panthers, Steelers, Mike is a former assistant with the Steelers. Well, let's start with the Panthers defense, because I feel like people are losing their mind. I feel like the Rams were the only team that could have beaten them on Saturday. I know I don't know where you are on who we're blaming for the Panthers' loss. I just thought the Rams, Stafford gets the ball, and I thought I had no problem with the way the Panthers played in the second half of that game.
I think it's hard to put any blame on a team that's a 10.5 point underdog with a chance to win the game in the last 2 minutes and
Agreed.
saying,
Agreed.
oh, well, you should have done this and this. Well, you're still in a position to win a game. You had no business, according to all the experts out there.
Yeah,
winning.
experts. Yeah, I've heard that.
Well,
Experts,
yeah.
You know,
But
we've got a lot of them in this area.
I guess my question would be, all of the talking point is now prevent defense.
Right.
What is your stance on that at the end of a game situation specifically?
Right. I heard some of those comments from people that have no freaking idea what they're talking about. Prevent defense. I heard it the last couple of days. You call the game based on what you see in personnel in the game. And yeah, maybe they were more aggressive. And I heard the comment made, why would you drop your best pass rusher? Well, because it was a fire zone and it was a pressure. It was a zone blitz. And if I'm not mistaken, in Pittsburgh, we were the #1 defense in the NFL for years by zone blitzing and dropping linemen and bringing DBs that can run very fast and can blitz very well. So I heard that comment that was the stupidest thing they've ever heard. I kind of take with a grain of salt who said that, but he was aggressive. You're going against a guy in Stafford who is one of the really great 2-minute quarterbacks.
Yes.
Nothing phases him. I mean, he's been there. Now, I'm lucky. We beat him at Georgia when he was a true freshman when I was at Kentucky. That was a fluke, and so, but no, I watched it and I'm encouraged. Dan Morgan is a Miami alum. Yep. Okay. I tried to recruit Dan Morgan out of Taravella High School in Coral Springs, I think when I was here. But Danny has done a great job. He's brought toughness he's brought some toughness to their football team. And I think that they got better. I was encouraged with what happened at the end of the year. Everybody says, well, you got in the playoffs, you're 8-9. I don't care. That's the rules. And they had an opportunity to win that game last week. And they didn't, because a pretty good quarterback and a good football team took it down the field and scored with 38 seconds to go.
And the guy who made the play, Colby Parkinson's like their 5th best option on offense. Like, he made a great catch. Like, what are you supposed to do there? Like,
that was a perfect throw. There is no defense for it. No. The DB was in perfect position of where you're asking him to be, and the ball ended up there. Okay, that's football, and I give them credit. I'm not taking anything. You couldn't cover the guy any better. And for people who say they went in to prevent, I disagree, because you don't know what prevent defense is. And a lot of the times earlier, when the Panthers were stopping them on defense, they were in a prevent defense too. They rushed 3. I guess that's what people call prevent defense when you drop 8. And when you drop 8, there aren't many holes there. Now, you're not going to get a lot of pressure. Okay, so I get that. But, when you watch pro football now or you watch college football, there's a lot of 8-man people dropping 8 now because of the RPOs, et cetera. So I don't, I kind of look at who said that, and I don't think those people have ever coached a day in their life.
Speaking of coaching changes, are you surprised Mike Tomlin makes the decision that he has done it enough? It's run its course.
No,
obviously he's still under contract with them, so he'll probably be around and involved. But
he'll probably sit out this year, because if someone does choose to sign him, they're going to lose draft choices to the Steelers.
You worked with Bill Cowher, correct. You the zone blitz with our guy
Dick
LeBeau. Yeah, so like you know all these things. You understand the Pittsburgh mentality, culture as well. I made you look smart for the one time in our relationship. When I told you about Matt Canada and all the plays that he calls, and he goes
his opening sequence. You're right. Yeah, you were right.
He tells his buddy,
there was going to be a bubble screen. There was going to be a draw. There was a jet sweep,
screen to the 3rd string tight end,
to the tight end, correct. And then there was going to be an inside zone. And you were right on. I watched the first 5 plays in one of the games, and you had it to the T. I said, Joe knows more than I thought he did.
Including the Pittsburgh assistants then texting you saying, "How did you know that's what Matt was going to call?"
Yeah, true story. I have to give you credit. I'll give you your credit.
So, okay, we did that. But what do you think? Where does Pittsburgh go now? Because this is a franchise that does not change coaches very often.
No, they've we talked about this yesterday. They've had 3 coaches in the last 55 years, and the Panthers have had 5 in the last 3 years. Or whatever it is. So, I don't know. I've talked to some people in the media there. who called and asked me if I was kind of like
Sure.
what we talked about. Was I surprised? No. Mike's been there 19 years. Mike's going to coach again.
Yeah.
I coached against Mike when I was with the Steelers, and he was the young secondary coach with Tampa Bay, working for Monty Kiffin. And so got to know Mike, think of the world of him as a coach. John Mitchell, who was on my staff at LSU, Mitch was the first African-American player to play at Alabama. He actually paved the way for me to go to Pittsburgh with Bill Cowher and Dick LeBeau. He was already there as the defensive line coach. And Mitch retired last year, but he was, and this is just my opinion, I think Mike really missed Mitch not being around. He took him off the field, but for 3 years, he was his senior administrative assistant. Mike bounced things off of Mitch because they had known each other for 20 years. Mitch officially retired and left Pittsburgh and went to Birmingham. And I've told Mitch this. They've declined since then because, and I'm not knocking the assistant coaches. Mike trusted Mitch.
Sure.
He could say things to Mitch. And Mitch was my guy at LSU. He was my assistant head coach. I could ask him things and I valued his opinion. He was great for me as a 33-year-old head coach. He was the same way for Mike. And I think that showed with some of the decisions that were made within the organization. You have a new general manager in Omar Khan, who's never played football. And I'm not knocking Omar. He was our business manager when I was there. He's great with money. He's never played football.
Okay. But
they surrounded themselves with scouts that were very young when I was there, and their personnel is not where it needs to be to compete to win the NFL championship right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah, Mike's only 53.
Yes, he's only 53. He was 32 when he got that job.
Right.
You know, I can relate to that. I mean,
right.
I wasn't a head coach when I was 32, but I did coach at an SEC school that was pretty big.
So how do you think the playoffs shake out now? My pick is the Rams. Everybody knows my pick is the Rams. I hate this cold game that they got to play up in Chicago this weekend.
I worry about that. My opinion, you asked me my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Seattle. I like Seattle.
I've
watched, I mean, I've got ties because Kirk Olivadotti is their linebackers coach.
Okay.
Tom, his dad, Tom, and coached with me at the University of Miami. And Tom and Karen are my two kids' godparents. And I used to babysit Kirk and to get him out of the bathtub. And now he's coaching the linebackers for the Seattle Seahawks. And so watching them, I haven't watched them as much as I have other people because they're on the West Coast. But I did watch them against San Francisco last week and saw what they did in San Francisco against Brock Purdy and against Kyle Shanahan, who I think is a great coach.
Mm-hmm.
So my pick right now, if you ask me who's my choice, I would say Seattle.
You believe in Sam Darnold, Alex?
I believe in the defense.
Yeah.
That is the best defense he has ever played with.
Alex hit it on the nose.
And I think that, yes, every single team left in the playoffs has flaws, but Sam Darnold in that running game that he can lean on that he hasn't really had before in the situation, you can kind of play that clock control game, especially with the defense that keeps giving you the ball back like they did against the Panthers a couple weeks ago and like they did against San Francisco to clinch the NFC.
I definitely think it helps them to play a team that he's familiar with.
Yeah.
They get to, so Sam Darnold starts his career with the Jets. Famously during a game said he was seeing ghosts on the side. Like he tried to live that one down. Goes to the Panthers. He was fine for what he was with the Panthers, but ended up getting replaced by Cam Newton, comes back under Matt Rule. And you and I talk about Matt Rule forever. Goes to Minnesota, really resurrects his career. And everybody waited all year last year. No. Like the shoe's going to drop. And it didn't until they got to the playoffs.
Right.
Turns out, though, they played the Rams in the playoffs last year.
Who were hot.
Who were smoking hot and really should have beaten the Eagles in the game, but they didn't.
They did.
So I think it helps him that he gets a familiar team. He's already played them twice. I agree with you. Shanahan's excellent play caller. But now without Kittle, you add in all of the injuries that they have. I think this is actually the perfect spot for Darnold to get a playoff win and feel better about themselves.
Yeah, with Kittle not being there. The other person people forget about is Robert Saleh.
Yeah, he's
the
come back.
Defensive coordinator.
He's
done a
come
good
back.
job.
Speaking of guys who've rehabbed their, the Jets will do that to you.
Right. And the Jets will do that to you. But they've had a lot of injuries on defense. And he's been able
to plug. Decimated.
They've been plugging guys in there. I mean, they're playing last weekend, and I'm going, who's this guy? Who's this guy? You know, and it's I Google him. He's a free agent from this place, and he's a free agent from Wampum University or something. You know, I'm going, never heard of him, but he's starting for the 49ers.
How about on the AFC side? I'm convinced the Bills are cursed, right? Alex, you're not even old enough to remember all of the things they've been through, but man, they can't ask for a better draw than what they've got right now, right?
No, and I saw a stat today that they're one of the only teams to win a playoff game for 6 consecutive seasons, and they're the only team of those 4 to not have a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah,
they've done it twice.
Yeah.
That's incredible to me. So to that point, I think this pass sets up brilliantly for them. And I don't think they're going to take advantage of it again.
Don't.
What do you think?
I think the Patriots, I think Drake May is the MVP. I think what they've done defensively with Mike, and knowing Mike like I do, having coached him for 4 years in Pittsburgh, the guy's all business, he's all football, and the players love him. I mean, I watch the games, I see the relationship he has with all players, starters, guys riding the bench, special teams guys. He's had some turmoil. His defensive coordinator had cancer. It was diagnosed like about 3 months ago. I don't know. A young linebacker coach had to step in. And I know Mike's very involved with the defense because of what's happened. And so they've had issues also off the field, but they haven't missed a beat. And defensively, that's what people forget about. I mean, they were really good last week. I mean, put pressure on the quarterback. And that's, right now, if you said to me, who do you think wins the AFC? I'm going with the guy from UNC, Drake May, and the Patriots.
It's funny. I'm give my son James credit because I didn't realize this. The Patriots went unbeaten on the road this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yes.
And there was a chance that, they were the 2 seed. So there's a chance they don't have to go on the road.
Right.
Right. Of all the teams who want to go on the road,
right.
This is the one.
Yeah.
They kind of been galvanized by
they
it.
played better on the road than at home.
Yep. To me, the Patriots are a smoke and mirrors team. I know what you're saying. I mean, it's a lot of what he did at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, they were the number 1 seed in the playoffs with Tennessee when they had no business being the number 1 seed in the AFC with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, right?
Yep.
He's a really good coach. They have been charmed this season.
Don't disagree.
Punt blocks, punt returns, this, that, the other. And when it's your year, coach, this. You get dialed a little bit.
Yeah.
You end up in the Final Four. When it's your year, it's your year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Drake May's been outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think at some point, though, your skill players have to make plays. It can't just be the quarterback who makes plays. This Houston defense, the different speed at the 3 levels.
Right. It's the best.
If Rabel's going to have to call the old Belichick's behind you, they're going to have to do a double pass, loop-de-loop, direct snap,
run the
this,
ball.
that, the
they
other.
They have to run the ball against them. And now, their running game is not great. And their
offensive line's banged up, and it's just
and their receivers struggle to get open against man coverage. Their tight ends are their leading receivers.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're the ones that make the plays. Hunter Henry and some of these other people.
And Drake May throws a great deep ball.
Yeah.
They take more shots than other teams. That's one thing I really love about that team.
Yes, they do.
They take more shots than anybody else. He throws a better deep ball right now than anybody since our guy Russ. And, the truth of the matter is, at some point, though, you got to have guys make plays.
Yeah.
And now you could turn that around on Houston's offense.
Right.
Because Nico Collins has been their best player. That poor bastard was knocked into next week 3 different times in that Pittsburgh game.
And C.J. Stroud looked like he had Pittsburgh in the points.
He looked like he had money in the game.
I mean, he had money on the game.
Yeah,
he had Pittsburgh because some of his decision, and I give D'Amico Ryans credit. He stuck up for him at halftime, and I would have just kind of.
I would have put Davis Mills in.
Well, you can't blast him, but I mean, when he got asked that question, he goes, "No," he said, "We got to help him out more." Well, the throw he made in the fourth quarter when they had driven the 80 yards, and like Troy Aikman said, just throw the ball away and live to play another down. Do not try to throw that ball because you're going to get intercepted, which he did. So, you're right. And the other thing people don't talk about now, he mishandled 3 snaps. Well, why? Because he wasn't looking for the ball. His eyes were downfield.
Yeah.
When you're in the shotgun, the number one coaching point for a quarterback is you look the ball into your hands. You get your pre-snap read. You get the ball in your hands. Then you look. Do not be looking downfield, because that's a great example of a quarterback not doing the fundamentals of catching it first.
You want to tell us a AFC Championship game story? You know, I love it. Picking old wounds and scabs.
Which one?
Which one do you want to tell? You want to tell the Tom Brady one, or you want to tell the John Elway
Well,
one?
you know, the first one was 97 when we played the Broncos and John Elway in the old Three Rivers Stadium. We had already beaten the Broncos in Pittsburgh 3 weeks before. We beat them 28-13. We kept Terrell Davis, the tailback from Georgia, who was really a good player. We kept him in check. Mike Shanahan was the coach, Cal's dad. And so then we end up playing them at home. And John was surgical in what he did. We got beat in a very close game. Then we played the Patriots after the infamous what was the play where the fumble didn't occur?
The tuck rule.
The tuck rule.
Oakland.
The tuck rule,
Yep.
Which Oakland should have, or LA or whatever they were, Oakland
Yeah.
should have won,
They
but
should
the
have, yes.
Raiders won. And then they came into Acrisure, which at the time was called, I don't know what it was called. It was the
Heinz Field.
stadium.
Yeah.
And, you know, Tom Brady was the quarterback.
It's
And
his
we
first
knocked
year
him
as a
out.
starter.
We run a blitz. We ran a strong safety fire, and Lethon Flowers knocks the living snot out of him, and he's out for the rest of the game, hurt his shoulder. And Drew Bledsoe comes in, who probably couldn't hit the broadside of a barn door, but he couldn't. But we gave up a punt return for a touchdown, a blocked punt for a touchdown, and a kickoff return that set up a field goal. That was their 17 points. We got beat 17-14. And, you know, the positive about that was when you lose the championship game back then, you got to go to Hawaii and coach in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And the players came over after the Super Bowl, and I was riding the bus to practice one day, and Brady sat next to me on the bus, and I said, we talked, and he's a great guy. And he said, you know, Coach, I really miss not playing against you guys. And I go, why? I said, he goes, well, I always because you guys blitzed all the time. He said, I figured I could pick you apart. And I said, well, trust me. I said, Tom, when Bledsoe came in, we blitzed more. He goes, yeah, but he never knew where to throw the damn ball.
All right, before we leave, the Bears are taking on my Rams. They're now my Rams.
Yes, you're right.
You want to tell a Ben Johnson story, or
No, that's fine. No, that's you know, let's let the young man do what he does.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
Speaking of having enough skill players, you think they have enough skill players to beat the Rams
the Bears?
in this game?
Yeah. I think he's done a great job.
No, unbelievable.
You know, our good friend Mark Trestman was the head coach there, and and I talked to Mark. In fact, today's Mark's 70th birthday.
Happy
so
birthday,
let's give
Coach.
a shout out to Mark Trestman. He's 70, and he was the coach of the Bears, the Bears. And so, and I've watched him, and I do think their receivers can separate.
Yep.
They have really good tight ends. And what you're
kids.
seeing now in pro football, tight ends are becoming very, very important to offenses, because back in the heydays when it was regular personnel, which for people out there, it's one tight end, two backs, two wide receivers. And then the big thing was 11 personnel, 3 wides, 1 back, and 1 tight end. Now you're getting a lot of condensed formations, and you're getting a lot of 12, 13 personnel, which is 2 and 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
But they're not always close to – they're spread out all over the field, and they're motioning him in and out. They're in 2-by-2 sets, condensed. They're in trips, condensed, and they're moving. And tight ends are becoming more of a factor in the passing game because they're on the field more. And the Bears utilize their tight ends. So do the Rams.
Yeah.
Everybody does. And that's one thing that I've noticed watching tape and watching games. There's a lot more 12, 13 personnel than ever when I coached in the NFL. So I do think the Bears have they have a good chance. You know, I know you're a Rams guy. But I do think
financially, yes.
I'm not
Those
going
are my
there.
rooting interests.
No. So, but I do think that the Bears are for real. That was a tough division this year. You think the Packers, the Lions, and the Bears all came out of that division. All three of those could have made it to the Super Bowl, literally, before people had injuries, etc.
So you're not going to the game on Monday, are you?
No,
Not to Miami.
No.
Okay.
no, I'm not.
And Seattle gets to the Super Bowl. You have a very special duty.
I will have a very special duty.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll talk about it if the
Yeah.
if the Seahawks get there.
Well, I'm hoping for Kirk's sake and for his mom's sake that she can go out to San Francisco and watch her son coach.
Love it. Coach, you're the best. Appreciate you. Good job yesterday. I only had to carry you for about 6 of the 7 holes that we ended up burning.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to Lou about that now. I'm going to have to talk to Don or Ron, whatever his name was.
Don,
our good friend Don, in his Carolina shoes and his Carolina shirt. And when I play in these benefit golf tournaments, Alex, he always hooks. We have Carolina people. Last time we played, what was the guy's name?
Josh.
Josh played. He was a Carolina guy. And Don shows up yesterday. He's got blue shoes on and a blue golf shirt. I go, geez, I guess I wonder where you went to college.
It's part of the triangle, man. We got to live in harmony.
Oh, no, there's no question. No question.
We could do it. Hey, you're buddies with Mac Brown. It's okay.
I am very good friends with Mac
See,
Brown.
there you go.
Yes.
Mike Archer, national champion, 8-3. We are rooting for the U on Monday. So we're
No
on
question.
the same page.
Yes.
Coach, appreciate you taking some time for us today.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Did you survive your first experience with Coach Archer?
Yeah, he's a great guy. I actually really enjoyed talking to him. He's very opinionated, though.
He is. He really is like Forrest Gump. I don't even know if you understand that reference. And that
I know Forrest Gump.
Okay. I love our generation, our generation gap. I enjoy it.
I can tell you do. Yeah.
He really has coached with everybody. He has a Nick Saban story too. I wish he would have told the Nick Saban story, but I appreciate Coach coming by and spending time with us. That means Coach was here. That means Gordon Miller was not here. Gordon is free to just hate watch the Bears and Ben Johnson this week. Man, you talk about Gordon's a big Detroit fan. He does not like Ben Johnson. Didn't like him last year when they were frittering away their Super Bowl opportunity. Really doesn't like him now that the Bears are in a position now to really play the spoiler. So do me a favor. Reach out to Miller Lending, MillerLending.com, 919-447-3377. That's MillerLending.com. Let them know you heard about them on the OG. They're going to take care of you. You get a row back from me. You get a Butcher's Market gift basket from them. And you get a no cost closing loan. Doesn't get any better than that. So check them out, MillerLending.com or 919-447-3377. Actually, there is one thing better than a no cost closing loan. Ice cream. January is they brought back the favorites. Are you a carrot cake guy?
No.
It's okay if you're not. They have a great carrot cake, which is carrot cake chunks. They have pecans this time around, and it's the cream cheese ripple that makes the entire ice cream. They also have a peanut butter cookie with chocolate cookie chunks.
Now that I can get
amazing. Great twist. And of course, they have the best deal at the arena going. Nothing better than the Slave and Sunday at Two Roosters. So check them out, tworoosters.com. And speaking of great deals and great parking, right there on Edenton, our friends at the Longleaf Swine, longleafswine.com. There's always parking on Edenton. Go check them out. They have the best for the youths. They have a brunch, unbelievable brunch. For old people like me, great bourbon selection. So Longleaf Swine, go check them out. They have normal barbecue, brisket, like normal, but they get a little funky on those weekends. So big thanks to our guy, Adam, over at the Longleaf Swine. Please check them out, support them. We appreciate them for taking care of us the way that they do. Joining me now on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. You could sell your car to the Heister Auto Group. This should actually probably be sponsored by somebody with tissues, because Oronde Ash is joining me today, and Oronde and I go back to NC State, and we have the same mentor in Coach Tarantini here, so we both might get emotional here today, but that we're catching up. and Oronde, you played soccer for NC State. You played soccer for Coach Tarantini. You have a great story, but you, for the first time, became an NC State fan, I feel like, or understood what it was like to be an actual fan at the College Cup recently, where NC State reached the national championship game, and you had a chance to really connect with a lot of your former teammates and kind of the Wolfpack community as a whole, right?
Absolutely. And again, I grew up in East Coast, New York, New Jersey area, and there's not really an entrenched sports culture, college sports culture. And I talk about the fact that when I first came down to NC State, freshman year 1994, like the idea of tailgating, that baffled me. I'm like, no, we're going to go to the game. We're going to watch the game. I don't want to be there at 1 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. And I wasn't a drinker. It wasn't all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to understand it's the camaraderie, it's the feeling, it's the connection with people. So NC State and North Carolina, I think, did that for me. Joe, you know New York or New Jersey, it's cold. It's December. You're not looking at people in the eye.
No.
You just walk about your business and you keep going. You're on the train. It's 1,000 people in a train car. Your head is up, holding the strap. You're sitting down in your newspaper, whatever. You're not bothered by anybody. It took me, my freshman year, it took me a couple months to accept, like the team was doing well. We were nationally ranked. That I'm walking through campus. I remember going down whatever the road is that leads to the cafeteria. I can't remember what it is. Kate's, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then somebody would inevitably be across the street and go, hey! And I'm like, I don't know you. Hey, right. And you would have to come across the street to talk to them. You don't do that in New York or whatever. Somebody's passing by, hey, what's up? And we keep going. So that thing was never really in me. NC State started putting that in me, the connection to people. It's not that I'm saying I was not connected to people.
Sure.
It's a different sort of thing. And so fast forward to a couple weeks ago, we're at the Final Four, and people I hadn't seen since 95. And I'm talking 1995 now, the last century, 95, 97, 98. I'm seeing my friends. I'm seeing my teammates, and we're all here to support a program who's transcended itself, and then you sit back and go, we're in the national championship game. We're there. We're the UCLAs. We're the North Carolinas. We're the whatever is there. And we're part of that. And I felt that, not so much the game, but the connection with my friends and the red and the white. I felt it for the first time, and it was profound. Like, you look at the highlights on ESPN, and you're going, that's us. Those 10,000 crazy people in a sea of red, that is us. And I was a part of that. And then I helped coach that, because I wanted to prolong that. And, yeah, whatever results they got, I didn't have something to do with it directly, but I had something to do with it. And I felt that for the first time in my life. So I want to thank Coach Hubbard, all the players, and just the Wolfpack community, man, and all my soccer friends. It was glorious. I'm still high on it. And then you and I are talking. Why? Because I still feel that way.
So you got one thing I really liked about this current NC State team was Markovich, the big defender from Canada, Quebec, their best scorer, Philip, St. Lucia, right? And then Caleb Tommy, I know he played high school here locally, but he's from South Africa.
Right.
And, I was talked about this at the time, and I said, Coach Tarantini, I remember Lee Fowler saying to George, you got to get local players. You got to go sign these local players. And George would never do it. And it's part of the reason he ended up, retiring when he did. But part of it was he truly believed in an Oronde Ash from St. Vincent. He truly believed in all of the different players. Tab Ramos, who is from, is an Americanized player now, but his opportunities in the different countries and he believed, because of his own experience of coming to this country and getting a chance to make something of himself. That's what he really believed soccer was a vehicle for. So I really appreciated seeing the makeup of this NC State team. And I really enjoyed the way that they played too. 13. Tommy, to me, was the kid on the outside, where I said to Coach Avon, Elliot Avon, obviously with great relationship with George, I said, that's the player that Coach really would have liked. I like the way that kid plays. So I kind of enjoyed, like you. I didn't follow the team during the year. I went to the College Cup, went over to Cary, went to the games at the Final Four. Dave Allred's a good friend of mine, so I got a chance to catch up with Dave, who was an assistant coach when you were there, and then you
recruited me.
An assistant coach for
Me
George.
and Dave talked about Notre Dame football more than we talked about anything having to do with NC State. We talked about Notre Dame football at the time.
So, to me, that was cool to see. Like I like the spirit, if you will, of this team. I think Mark Hubbard did a great job coaching this team. But I really enjoyed it felt like the spirit of George was there.
And I felt the same. I think that the player that you're talking about, number 13, is sort of a right wing back going up and down the line. He was feisty.
Yeah.
He got drafted, right? Drafted in MLS first round. So there's a bite to him. Final game, he looked gassed. I say that, which was rightfully so. I'm trying to think if he got subbed out in the 2 games that I saw. He might have got subbed out for 5 or 10 minutes. But he was giving everything. In addressing the diversity of the ACC, I remember when I was a freshman, there was no MLS soccer yet.
Right.
It was in the burgeoning stages. So I always tell people, for me, the height of American soccer was ACC soccer. In my mind, it was. Most of the national team came from ACC teams, specifically UVA.
Virginia.
That was a national team, right? And so you're playing at the highest level that was available at the time. And so I think there was a push to develop American players in the ACC. I think there were some exceptions. Like, I think there was a coach, Ibrahim, in Clemson in the mid-'80s who just brought a swath of Nigerians over and won a national title. And then when I came back as a coach, it was interesting. I think there was a German, Yannick something, that played for UVA, but he was also the kicker on their football team. Yeah. And that was one of the first players that came in who had sort of academy experience in Europe, high-level training, and then he was brought over to be in an ACC program. That didn't really happen. And looking at the landscape of college soccer now, it is international. Just like George, people are open to the idea, and maybe it's more of a practical business decision. Where is the talent in soccer? I'm sorry, folks, it's around the world. And if they can get here, the program's going to be better, the quality is going to be better. And so that's what we saw. That George was, when I played at State, we were the most diverse team in the ACC. We were the most diverse team. I'm talking, it might have been at any given moment, I don't know, 4 African-American kids, 4 black kids. And that was diversity in the ACC. I'm not making a commentary about it, but it's a fact.
Yeah.
And then NC State had everybody. And I didn't see that kind of diversity around the league. So I'm wondering now if people are doing it for practical winning purposes. I think George was doing it because it was just the right thing to do. This player deserves to be here. I'm going to bring him here. He told me something once. I think I'm repeating this for the first time. He loved Brazil.
Okay.
But he was growing up his favorite national team. And as an Argentine, that is death. That is death. And people don't really conceptualize this. I'm not talking race here. But Brazilians, they're black people.
Yeah.
And so he liked black players. And not the country notwithstanding, the animosity between them, he just saw people, man. And if you were good enough and you got it done, he didn't give a damn what you looked like or who you were, where you came from. Can you do the thing? So in a sense, it was the most maybe American in the best sense of what this country is. Opportunity, give it to you. He's going to push you to get it done. And if you can get it done, man, you're his friend for life. And you're a better person. And that's what I think that's happened specifically with our good friend, George Tarantini and me.
Yeah, it's funny. You think about soccer globally, and you pointed out France. When did France really start getting good? When they started importing players from Africa, okay? You look at England, can they finally break through? And you look at some of the diversification of their lineup. Same with Germany. Look, it's kind of a fact of the way that soccer has gone. And I remember one time I asked George, like, who's your favorite team? It's funny you say Brazil. Because he said Brazil, and I was like, not Italy?
Right.
He goes, not Italy? I go, not Italy? Because Giglio, and his background's Italian. He's like, no, He goes, we play the most boring style of soccer in the world. He goes, no,
Yes, it is. Yeah.
it's about going forward. It's about pushing. It's about creativity. I said, okay, I got it. So you did get your coaching start at NC State. You're an assistant there, but you had a really cool opportunity last year in your home country at St. Vincent. Tell me a little bit about that.
Correct. So I was born on the Caribbean island of St. Vincent, immigrated to America when I was 9 years old, 1985 in New Jersey, maybe not too far from Joe. And then obviously came to NC State, played. And then when I was 19, my sophomore year at State, St. Vincent made a glorious, miraculous run to the Gold Cup. I actually did a podcast about it. It's really cool runnings. It's an incredible story.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to happen. We made it there. Actually, my sophomore year at State was my worst year. I didn't play a whole lot. But in December of that year, because I was on the radar, I was one of the few people in the country that was playing college someplace, I got invited to be on my national team. So I played in the Gold Cup in 1996 against Mexico. That's the Mexican team from the 1994 World Cup. That team, Jorge Campos, Garcia Aspe, Guatemoc Blanco was making his debut, the game that I played.
Wow.
And so I had a chance to do that. Started a nonprofit, developed some grassroots program in my country. And so I've been around soccer in my country as a player 20, 25 years ago, then as a organizer, a builder of youth since 2010. And a friend of mine on the Gold Cup team in 1996, Ezra Hendrickson, one of the legends of MLS. He was a coach at Chicago Fire a couple of years ago. He got asked to be the head coach of the national team. And knowing sort of my history with the youth, and we knew the team was going to be a young team, he invited me to come down. I hadn't been back home in my country for an extended period of time since I was 9 years old. My mom is there, my dad is there. And then to be part of a program that's building, Joe, it was tremendous. We were in a bracket with El Salvador, Montserrat, and Bonaire. We were not supposed to get out of that bracket because we were a young team. We upset people. We beat El Salvador. It's not supposed to happen. We should have beaten them twice. And we shouldn't have beaten them twice. It made CONCACAF radar. And eventually we lost to Jamaica, home and away. We had Jamaica 1-0 with 30 seconds left in the 8th minute of overtime, Joe. In the 98th minute at home. Back Jamaica with Donovan Bailey, who plays in the EPL. We did a good job on him. And then one of our players made a mental error, made a rash tackle with literally Donovan Bailey scored the penalty kick, ref blows the whistle. So we were minutes away from possibly being in an advantageous position to be in the Gold Cup last summer, which would have been the first time our country did it since the year that the coach and myself and another guy was the goalkeeper coach. So it would have been the greatest, it would have been the perfect ending to go back and do it. So soccer for a year from August 24 to June of 2025 is the best thing I've done. And then being able to do it with friends, being able to do it around my family, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. You get on a plane, you go to Bonaire, you go to El Salvador, you go to Jamaica, you're traveling, and it's the first time I recognize I'm living the dream of millions of little boys around the world. One, I got a chance to play international soccer. And then to come back and be maybe one of, 250 people who are an international assistant soccer coach. Sometimes you're doing things and you don't recognize it. Like when I was at NC State, you don't recognize what you're doing. You're in a D1 program playing high-level soccer. Or a couple of weeks ago, you were part of this thing. And you sit back and you go, yeah, I was part of that. And very, very few people got to get that opportunity. So I was thankful for Ezra, for the St. Vincent Football Federation for giving me that opportunity. And it's changed my life. It has absolutely changed my life, made me a more expansive coach, opened up sort of my spheres and opportunities. So it was incredible. It's one of those things I'm never going to forget. As I get older, you realize there are things that you do, people you meet, for example, for George Tarantini, and like you said, it's only for a short time. It's only for a short time. Take advantage of it, feel it, and then that thing should resonate with you later on, 2 years, 3 years, especially when you're going through some doldrums in life. You look back and go, man, that energy at Wake Med Park that Monday night, God, that was nice. Or you're coming up the tunnel in El Salvador, in El Salvador Stadium in the capital, and you just beat somebody. And the stairs leading from the field up to the locker room, it's literally you're going up 4 flights of stairs. But I'm sprinting up that thing, and I'm like, oh! And you're in the locker room, and we just start dancing. The boys start dancing, and I got video of it, and just this energy, man. And that doesn't come around very often. Just like that Monday night at Wake Med. Or like you and I talking about what it felt like to be a friend of George Tarantini. It doesn't come along. And so the older I get, you kind of treasure these moments. And I am learning better to treasure those things. And that's what my experience in St. Vincent was, man. It absolutely changed my life. It made me a better man. It really did.
Well, there's a reason he sits over my shoulder. You got to keep an eye on him.
And there's a reason I don't know if people can see this, but I got, the George Tarantini band here for a visit. Here for a visit.
Yes. Oronde Ash, I appreciate you taking some time, man. And if my math is right, I'm class of 93, you're class of 94, high school. That means you got a big birthday coming up this year, right?
Turning 50 in February 16th of this year. I have a 6-year-old daughter. She's been pinching my gut for the last couple of weeks. Says, Daddy, it's soft. So I got a bet with her.
Okay.
I'm getting a 2-pack. I'm going to get a 2-pack.
Okay.
I'm going to get a 2-pack. Not a 4-pack. Not a 6. I'm going to get a 2-pack by February 16th. That's the plan. In the meantime, I'm coaching soccer with my buddy DeJuan Bader, another NC State alum, at a club called Velocity here in the Raleigh area. So I'm with youth 4 nights a week. Still continue to do my nonprofit on the island of St. Vincent, collecting soccer gear. Been doing it since 2010. The Triangle has been very kind to me. Go in your garage if you have old boots and cleats and shirts and all. I got a place and kids that can use them because they love the game. They just don't have the equipment to do it. And then would love to liaise with more folks around here now that I'm back here to really expand the program to help bring this beautiful game to communities here locally and around the world where they want to play, but they don't have all the things that we have extra of. So why wouldn't I want to do it? I'm here for a visit, man. And while I'm here, I want to make the most of it by helping as many people as I can, especially using soccer.
Oronde, great to catch up, man. Appreciate you taking the time today. Best of luck with your venture.
Sure.
I hope you get another chance to get to that Gold Cup. Maybe even something bigger with St. Vincent. Would love to see it someday.
Hopefully.
Be good, man.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, Alex Nunnally. You're not Mike Maniscalco, but we are going to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. We normally have Mike on to talk about the Canes, and it's brought to you by our friends at Brassfield Accounting. Chris Brassfield in Homer, Alaska, and RTP. They're here for all of your bookkeeping, housekeeping needs. As a small business, trust me, you need these things. He's a fractional CFO. All the things you don't want to take care of in invoices and payroll and human resources, all these other things, they can handle. And now they have hired an accountant so they can handle your taxes too. So please check them out, brassfieldaccounting.com. All right, we're getting into we're going to have a weird January. They're playing 15 times in 31 days, Carolina Hurricanes. February, they're going to play up until the 5th, and then there's a 20-day break. And you're not allowed to make any roster moves during the Olympic break.
Yep.
So we're getting a little bit, and the trade deadline is not till March. So we're getting a little bit of an accelerated trade rumor mill season when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes.
You're getting 2 deadlines basically this year. Yeah.
Yes. And it's my opinion that if they are going to make a bigger move, Naz Kadri is my choice, then they would be better off making that move before the Olympic break than they would be after. Now, of course, just because I want it that way doesn't mean that's how the world works.
Right.
Right. The East right now is very bunched up. So you're going to be hard pressed to find sellers in the East because
Everyone thinks they have a chance.
correct.
Yeah.
But in the West, Calgary is struggling a little bit. So we'll see if the Giglio fever dream of getting Naz Kadri to be their second center would be something that could go home. We'll have to wait for that. Though there's been some other rumors though floating around about a former Cane.
Unfortunately, Elliot Freeman and Pierre LeBrun, a couple other guys, reporting that Dougie Hamilton might be catching the Canes' eye again.
Okay.
Which would be a very interesting move for this iteration of the Canes to make.
Now, Dougie played for the Canes, and he was the original Tom Dundon, Eric Tulsky. Hey, cool. You want a bunch of money, but we're not going to pay you a bunch of money.
Yep.
They let him go and sign this deal with New Jersey.
Very much here's our number. Oh, you want more than that? Cool.
That's not our number.
Yeah, exactly.
As Rod Brindamore likes to describe it, business Tom. Business Tom. So Dougie's been kind of sort of holding down the fort. He every once in a while gets those injuries, but New Jersey's figured out a way to play defense without him, is what we're coming down to here.
Well,
he's becoming an extra part for New Jersey.
Literally an extra part.
Yeah.
He has been a healthy scratch several times over the last couple of lineups, which his agent has made very clear he is not appreciative of.
Okay.
Again, calling it a business decision. So I think
fantastic power play guy.
Oh, he is.
Okay.
Well, again, what I will say for the Hurricanes is that you have arguably a better version of the power play guy in Shane Gostisbehere.
Okay.
Who every time he's in the lineup, the power play looks pretty good. And then he comes out of the lineup and it falls apart again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have that is what he is on the roster to do, is score and make the power play work. We can talk all day long about the power play and the system, but it does not look the same when Shane Gostisbehere is there. And the reason you'd bring a Dougie Hamilton in is to provide offense from the blue line and run your power play. But you don't need him to do it for 30 seconds, a power play on the second unit.
Right.
When you have Nikishin, who does a pretty good job, I think, given his age and his, I guess, otherwise inexperience with the system.
It's hard to believe it's already been 5 years since Dougie was here. He was at Carolina for 3 years. It was part of a big trade, Noah Hannafin trade back in the day with Calgary. Speaking of trades with Calgary, spent 3 years here and then ended up as a free agent, leaving after the 2021 season. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, they're letting Dougie go. How are they doing this?" That was the year they signed Tony DeAngelo to a bargain basement deal, and Tony came in and was perfectly fine on the power play.
Yeah.
But much like Dougie, struggled in the playoffs. And that's kind of been why there's been that revolving door at that spot. Then Tony left, and I already forgot who Tony's replacement might have been. Burns.
It was Burns. Yeah. Burns was here 2 years.
Yeah. And Burns was a little bit of a discounted rate as well, that they actually got San Jose to pay for some of that, right?
Yeah, they returned 33%.
Yeah. So this feels like, but Dougie's still working out that original contract. So this doesn't feel like the bargain basement type of move that Eric Tulsky would make.
No, because the Devils make that move to get off the contract.
Yeah.
They're not in a Sharks position where, we'll take the dead money on for a couple of years because we're not going to contend until, I guess, this year because they're in a playoff spot somehow. But, I know how it's Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah. I was going to say, we could solve that one.
Yeah. But
so he signed a 7-year deal in 21 for average annual value of 9.
I mean, when you talk about the Canes have the cap space, they're able to make a big move. That would be your move. There's no way the Devils would retain, I think, any of that deal to move off of Dougie Hamilton, which is why I just do not see this being a smart move for the Canes, because you need, realistically, a second line center, and you probably need another goalie. You're not going to be able to do either one of those things if you were to go get a Dougie Hamilton.
No, he's got 2 full years and a $9 million cap hit in each of those years. This would be a luxury item, not a need.
Well, it'd be a luxury item that I think you immediately regret getting.
Well, speaking of goalies, are they going to be okay at goalie? What do you think they do with Freddie? I think they're just trying to get to the break. Right?
I would think so, but then he goes and plays okay against Detroit. I didn't think he was great, but I didn't think he was the reason they lost that game.
Okay, that's fair.
And then, I can't even blame Bussy for last night because it looked like the entire team forgot the second period started.
Yeah.
And then tried to play the first and third, but obviously got the classic Canes goaltending of the other team's goalie. You shoot into his chest, he's probably going to make the save. So it's tough to say what they're going to do because I think you should make a move, but I also think goaltending is something you normally address during the offseason because I do not remember the last time, but I don't remember the last time a cup contender was like, we're going to go get our goalie at the deadline and it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And I just don't see.
Does it have to be the goalie or does it just have to be
A.
something better than what Freddie's doing right now? I got, just from our conversations over there, I got the sense they were trying to get to the break and try to rehab Freddie.
Yeah.
Mentally. Because that's really what it's a confidence issue, I think, at this point. And it just so happens that they come off these two losses. Detroit, they were down 3-0, come back, force overtime, fine. It was a terrible missed call.
Yeah.
In overtime, speaking of Gossesberry, gets shoved. The guy scores a goal. Cool. St. Louis, as you mentioned, on Tuesday, they lose 3-0. Okay, maybe you would have thought after they started slow against Detroit, they wouldn't have another slow start. Fair enough, Bussey's in net. Now, though, speaking of a mental health check, tomorrow night, Florida's here at Lenovo Center, 7:00. There is a real mental block when it comes to the Panthers. 4-3, the game they had the 3-0 lead. We're both Slavin and Jarvis got hurt. That was December 19th. And then the game here right before Christmas, they lose 5-2. This just, I mean, they're in the Canes kitchen, right?
And they had a 2-0 lead in that game.
Yeah.
Started the streak of the multi-goal.
They're just in this, they got it. They need regular season games. I get it. They don't count for anything, but they need to pick off one. They only got two more, right? With Florida, this will be one of the two.
This is the last one.
No, this is it. You only play three. Yeah. They kind of sort of need to pick this one up, right?
Yes, I would say so.
Well, are we in must-win regular season territory?
That's because again, that's been my biggest problem with regular season hockey is that you lose to St. Louis on a Tuesday night. It's like, oh, okay, you play Friday. Yeah, like the intensity level just can't be there for 82 games. This is one of the 82 where you better show up because this is Boston from the first few years of Rod, Tampa from the middle of the tenure, Florida now. There's always been that team that has stayed in the Rangers too. There's always been one or two teams where this team cannot get over the hump against them when it matters. And you just lost 2 in a row. One was in overtime, I know. This matters. You don't want to lose 3 in a row ever. Well, I wish they had taken Robert Thomas with them from St. Louis because that is a team. You want to talk about the West being so separated? That is a team that's on the wrong end of those standings in the West. Whoa. Robert Thomas would be my answer at 2C. I know you love Kadri, and he wouldn't be a bad option, but man, Robert Thomas, he cost a pretty penny, but when you're in the window the Canes are in, I don't think there's necessarily a price outside of a few guys that I wouldn't be willing to pay for a guy like a Robert Thomas who's young, fits the window, fits the core's age, and has been productive in a 1C role really there, who can come in and be, we can talk about 1A, 1B with Aho. He's the true number one. But if you want to have a guy who can challenge him, it's kind of like not to cross sports. The Panthers having a guy, Bryce Young is the guy, but you want a guy behind him like, hey, you haven't gotten the long-term extension yet. You got the 5th year. You want to have those guys behind your guys pushing them. There's no one pushing Aho right now for ice time for those opportunities. You want a guy behind him who can push him and make him excel because you see how he is. When he gets that competitive fire of a guy challenges him. Even in Florida, the Florida Game 5 last year, he got challenged in Game 3 and Game 4. He responded. And Game 5 had a great game. Obviously didn't work out. But he needs that competition to get to his best level. I think bringing in a guy like a Robert Thomas, like a Kadri, not even to settle your own second line, but to push your first line up to that level you need it to be at to win the playoffs.
All right, I survived last weekend. My Rams futures tickets. I do not like this late start in Chicago. Do not like the projected temperature of 19 degrees with the potential for snow. Don't like any of this for my Rams. Ugh. But do I hedge it? Do I have to hedge this? I feel like I probably do. Let's look at the other one. Saturday, Bills are getting 1.5. Feels like a pick. And Niners are getting 7 at Seattle. Seems a little starchy.
A little big, but again, I mean, do you trust the Niners to score consistently against that
No.
Seahawks defense
No.
with no George Kittle?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
don't. Then the first game on Sunday is Texans Patriots. Patriots right now are a 3-point favorite. I like the Texans in that game.
I do too. Although 3 feels about right.
Yeah,
for
it
them.
does. It does. If it could pop to 3.5,
Yeah, I agree.
we'll see how that one goes. But you know what? Lines are subject to change. We all know this, but go to DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and make every playoff moment feel bigger. DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you'll still get paid in cash. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use that promo code OG25. That's code OG25. You can turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in New York. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, call 888-78-9777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of the Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states, void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. All right, Alex, before we get out of here with some Carolina phone calls on the sports phone, how's your high school basketball season going? Your maiden voyage as a high school basketball coach, Thales?
Yes.
Academy?
You got it.
All right. And Carrie? All right. How's it going?
It's a work in progress.
Okay.
We're still a very, very young team, but I really enjoy getting to know all the guys and having them really buy into what we're trying to do. We're not always the most talented team.
Sure.
But it's been really rewarding seeing them kind of understand and kind of pick things up as I'm putting them down. And they're starting to kind of make reads for themselves. I'm not having to always put them in those positions. So it's been definitely improvement, but we still have a long way to go. Still have, almost a full month left, I guess, of the season. So
I go to a lot of high school basketball games. I enjoy high school basketball. I enjoy coaching the youths as well in their younger days. The number one lesson from sports is you learn how to fight even when you're going to lose, because that's life. That is actually life. So I'm glad your group is getting a little taste of that. So best of luck to you rest of the way.
Thank you.
I know it's been hey, you were thrust into it and then you were like, no, I want to do this, man. I want to. Well, you want to see if you want to do it, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's always a challenge. So enjoy. All right, there we go.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports Phone and curse or don't.
Curse or don't is the key here. We're accused on this program of being NC State guys. That's fine. I mean, we graduated from NC State, so it's a thing. I get it. But we're here for a safe space for Carolina fans as well, because, you get mad, you give it a call. 919-444-2211. And yes, as the jingle says, curse or don't.
Hey guys, it's Paul.
Joe.
You were so close.
I gotta control myself so I don't wake up my neighbors. But Carolina just lost to Stanford because they shot 60% from three. Fire Hubert Davis. Fire that motherfucker. Holy shit. 60%. Have you ever heard of guarding somebody when they have the ball and are open from beyond the three-point line? Do you think that thought has ever crossed his mind? What are you doing? What are you doing? This happened against SMU. They shot 52%. Now you're going to let Stanford make 16 threes. You're going to waste the best front court we have had since 2009 with Tyler Hansborough. And I cannot understand why. What is wrong with you? Have you heard of basketball? Do you know what basketball is? Have you ever coached before you got here legitimately? Or were you digging in your ass as an assistant coach for Roy Williams? I'm going to crash out. I mean, clearly I already am. This is ridiculous. We're wasting the best team we've had since 2017. And that includes 2 years ago with RJ and Armando. That includes 4 years ago with RJ and Caleb and Armando. That includes when, oh my gosh, this is absurd. This is absurd. I hate you, Hubert, so much. So much. And when we beat Duke in a few weeks, because we match up great against them, February 7th, we're going to beat Duke. But for now, like, it'll be great. It'll be wonderful. And everybody, oh, Hubert, great job. I'm not going to forget that this son of a bitch does not know how to coach a basketball team. Appreciate y'all.
That was aggressive.
I guess the goodwill from Kansas is gone that we talked about.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. You know what? I like that he called the hotline. I like that he had that moment because he was trying not to wake the neighbors. So that's why we're here. That's right. Let's try one more.
Man, I'm too damn sleepy to think of a good, smart thing to say. But why do my Carolina teams these days got to be just the dumbest with the ball? Why can't they just be, like, smart? I don't know. I look at all these other top teams, and they just handle the ball well. And I feel like it's just been a constant thing since, like, the last couple of years of Roy. And then under Hubert, these Tar Heel teams are prone to dumb mistakes. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Fuck.
Again, curse or don't. That's what the hotline's for. We will see you guys tomorrow for another episode of the OG Mailbag. Make sure if you're not a member, hit that join button right below. $5 a month. It's a steal. You can do it. So, Alex, I will probably see you on Saturday. NC State, Georgia Tech at noon.
Maybe. I will try to go on Monday though. I did not realize the game was at 1:30.
All right, so
I couldn't make it at 7, but I can actually make it at 1:30. So we'll see about that.
If you got time on Monday, we'll have you up. We'll talk some hockey again.
Sounds fantastic.
Appreciate you taking some time for us today. Appreciate all you guys out there. Have a great weekend. We will see you soon.